James, chapter 31. I awoke coughing so hard I near brought up my supper. When I finally caught my breath, I smelled the smoke and saw the light bright as day outside my window. I jumped from the bed and peered out. It was not morning. It was an inferno. Flames curled out of all the windows next door. The rooftop beyond that was a lake of fire. Every building in sight was burning. The air was filled with crackling and popping sounds, with shrieks and screams coming from the street below. A hot gust of wind blew the curtains back and sent the fire straight at me. Fiery shingles floated from the roof and caught in the branches in the tree outside my window, setting the bark ablaze. A burning leaf drifted to the sill, and I brushed it off, my hands quivering. Get out. Seized again by coughing, I fell to the ground where the smoke was not so heavy. I pulled my shoes towards me and quickly buckled them on, then took a deep breath and rose to my feet, grabbed Ruth's doll off my bed, and opened the door. Smoke filled the hall, curling down from the ceiling along with the fingers of fire. Get out now. I clattered down the stairs, screaming, "Fire! Fire!" The door to Lady Seymour's bedchamber was just opening. As I went to pass by, she grabbed my arm. "Quick, child," she cried. "Help me!" Her chamber was even brighter than the attic, but the windows were closed and the smoke was thinner. She bent over the enormous trunk by the wall. "It contains my valuables." She pulled at the handle. "Please, Isabel." I reached to the handle and tugged, but the trunk did not move. "It's too heavy, ma'am. Leave it. The roof is afire." "No, wait." She flung open the top. The trunk was filled with a silver teapot set, a small portrait of a yellow-haired man, something wrapped in a velvet cloth, dusty sacks, small wooden boxes, and packets of letters tied up in ribbons. There was another crash outside and screams. I grabbed her arm. "We'll die if we stay." She pulled out the letters in two small boxes and thrust them at me, along with the portrait. "Take these." I stuck the portrait with the letters in my pocket and balanced Ruth's doll on top of the boxes in my arms. The room was so hot, I thought that corn husks might explode into flames. Lady Seymour grabbed two of the stacks, and the coins within clinked together as she rose to her feet, coughing. "Hurry!" she gasped. The smoke was in the hall was thicker than it had been moments before. We felt our way one step at a time to the staircase. I went down first, with Lady behind me, her hands frail on my shoulder. My eyes watered, and my lungs felt like they were pulling in the flames. I thought for a moment we were trapped. The thick haze tricked my mind, and I knew if we should not proceed down or up. My ears filled with the crackle of the burning wood. "Help me!" Lady Seymour cried. Her hand vanished. "Ma'am, ma'am!" The smoke stopped at my throat. There were thunderous crash overhead, a ceiling giving way, or a piece of roof collapsing. The old woman crumpled to the stairs. Is she dead? I put my hand on her chest. She had a heartbeat that was light and fast as birds' wings beating up against the cage. I put my face close to hers and screamed, "Get up!" She moved once and tried to move her hand. I pulled at her arm and she moaned again, but I could not be gentle. I dropped the boxes and the doll and draped her around me and half fell down the rest of the stairs. Once on the ground, she tried to walk, but one of her legs was failing her. I opened the front door and dragged two of us out into the street. The air was a swirl with flames, soot, and burning shingles, each caught with the devilish whirlwind. The cries and screams of men and women mixed with the terror of the horses burning alive in the locked stables. Windows exploded, beams crashed, trees split, and their crowns ablaze like torches in the hand of a cruel giant. I felt the cloth on my back ready to ignite, the brand on my cheek scorched, as the fire within me called to the fire in the air. "Move or die," whispered the flames. I dragged Lady Seymour north and west, away from the course of the wind, which blew like a bellows and fanned the flames. British soldiers looted a burning house, running out with their arms full of silver and forks and spoons sticking out of their pockets. A man or a dog ran by howling, its tail on fire. We passed a family, all in their night clothes, throwing buckets of water against the wall of their house as a fire chewed through the wood. A group of men had harassed them or harnessed themselves to the fire wagon and held a large tank of water, but one of the wheels broke and it proved too heavy to drag. One more block, we could go no further. Lady Seymour and me collapsed in a heap on the edge of the graveyard. Time burned up while we lay there, caught in the sparks that flew overhead, swallowed up by the noise of a city ablaze. When I finally came to my senses, I sat up, coughed at length, and breathed in slow. It hurt, but it would not be the death of me. Lady Seymour still lay beside me, shaking her head from side to side in the dirt and muttering. I bent my ear close to hear. "The bells. Where are the bells?" she asked. Had the fire ruined her mind? Why did she worry about the bells? You're safe, ma'am, I said, patting her hand. She frowned. Why don't the bells ring alarm? Her words were gargled, but she was talking underwater, but finally I understood. Every bell in every church steeple should have been ringing loud and fearsome, but they were all gone, melted and reformed into cannons. I stood up. Over the rooftops, I could see men pouring water on the flattish roof of St. Paul's, and the buckets handed to them in a long line of people that stretched to the backyard pump. To the south, Trinity Church was not as lucky. Its tall steeple was a pyramid of fire, the flames licking the undersides of the clouds that scuttled above. What shall we do, ma'am? I asked. Her tears turned black as they rolled through soot on her face. Her left arm and leg lay limp as if a cog within her had snapped. She did not make a sound. 'Twas up to me to make the decisions. Come, I helped her to sit. We need to make our way to safety. I stood to her left and draped her useless arm over my neck and held her body tight to mine. In that manner, step by slow step, we staggered on. We passed countless people standing in the streets like statues, their toes bare on stones, nightclothes blowing in the unnatural breeze, mouths agape. Carts rolled by carrying half-naked people, bleeding and dazed. A collection of charred bodies had been stacked on the corner, not fully covered by a blanket, and a child's boot and a stocking lay in the gutter next to an overturned rain barrel. Step by slow step, we made our way to Wall Street, then down the to the seventh house on the left. She was near insensible by the time we reached it. In truth, I pinched her as hard as I could. It roused her some, and she lifted her working leg. Thus, we mounted the steps of the Lockton house and entered the front door.